The storm came without warning that day, waves crashing against our boat like angry fists. I'll never forget the look in John's eyes, my own brother, as he pushed me off, ripping away my life jacket. The cold water hit me like thousands of needles, and the darkness below welcomed me home. Later, on the safety of the dock, my family huddled together. "Where's Dino?" Mom's voice carried no real concern, just annoyance. Dad's response cut through the air like ice. "Don't worry about him. He's got a life jacket." They didn't know John had taken it. My sister, ever the devoted one, wrapped her arms around John. "You're such a sweet boy," she cooed. "Why can't Dino be more like you?" The irony of their words floated above them like the storm clouds that still lingered. The rescuers' questions began to poke holes in their perfect family picture. "How could you not notice one of your own missing?" they asked, bewildered. Mom's excuse came easily, practice from years of forgetting me. "Oh, Dino's always wandering off," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "Like that time at the amusement park." But I remembered that day differently, standing in the parking lot, watching our car disappear into the distance, my throat raw from screaming their names. The truth was heavier than the water in my lungs. In our family's story, I was just a footnote, the replacement child they'd adopted after losing their biological son to drowning. Then came John, the second adoption, the golden child. My sister doted on him. My parents adored him, while I remained a ghost in my own home. As they stood on that dock, John played his part perfectly. "Maybe brother just doesn't like me," he said softly, his voice dripping with fake concern. "I wish he wouldn't be so stubborn." Dad jumped to console him, then bellowed into the air. "Dino, your brother's worried about you." But I couldn't answer anymore. I was already gone. Just like that day at the orphanage when I first saw them, the moment before a speeding car would change everything. "Hey everyone." Whoa, what a shocking moment, right? Just when you thought this family couldn't get any more twisted, their perfect adopted son turns out to be their real son who saved their lives. But hold on, because this story is about to get even crazier. What happens when John realizes his perfect world is falling apart? And what about the sister who's been living in denial all this time? Trust me, you won't believe how far some people will go to protect their lies. Want to know if Dino finally gets justice? Or if his family truly faces what they've done? The next part will leave you speechless. We're talking about a celebration party that changes everything, a jade pendant that holds dark secrets, and a bridge meeting that, well, I won't spoil it, but let's just say not everyone walks away. If this story of family betrayal, hidden identities, and shocking revelations has grabbed your attention, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to catch more incredible stories that will make you question everything you think you know about family loyalty. Share this video with someone who loves mind-bending family dramas. They'll thank you later. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. Do you think Dino's family deserves forgiveness? Can you believe what John did? Let's talk about it in the comments. Stay tuned, because the ending of this story will hit you harder than you expect. You seriously don't want to miss what happens next. That day at the orphanage plays in my mind like a broken record. I screamed myself hoarse as the car nearly hit them, and in the aftermath of that near tragedy, they looked at me like I was their savior. "It must be fate," they said, hands still trembling. "Be our son, and we'll give you all the love in the world." Those words were honey to my starved heart, and I believed them. Oh, how I believed them. The first 6 months were like living in a dream. Mom's cooking filled the house with warmth. Dad's proud smiles lit up my world, and my sister's piano lessons became the soundtrack to my new life. I thought I'd finally found my forever home, until they brought John home. One look at me, and he started crying. My sister's reaction cut deep. She pushed me aside like yesterday's trash, scolding me for frightening their precious John. My parents didn't even look my way. Their eyes were glued to their new son. The truth hit harder than any physical blow. John was a mirror image of their drowned son. He didn't need to earn their love. His face was enough. I watched from the shadows of my new room, the guest room now, as he inherited everything I'd briefly called mine. "John is my real brother," my sister would say, while our parents whispered about heaven's gift of healing. I became a ghost in my own home, haunting the edges of their perfect family picture. Back at the dock, as Dad's angry words echoed across the water, a rescue worker finally spoke up. "Finding your son should be your priority," they said, disgust clear in their voice. "Do you understand the danger he's in?" But my family remained unmoved, wrapped in their bubble of denial. "I gave him his life jacket myself," my sister declared confidently. Mom chimed in with her usual dismissal. "He's always causing trouble. He's just hiding to worry us." The rescuers turned away, frustration evident in their movements, when a small voice cut through the tension like a knife. A little girl I'd met on the cruise spoke up, her voice shaking but sure. "I saw what happened. She pointed at John, pushed Dino off the boat. That's Dino's life jacket he's wearing." The perfect family facade cracked. John's panic showed through as he stammered denials, while my sister's true colors blazed as she struck the innocent child. "Who do you think you are, spreading lies?" she hissed. The girl's father stepped forward, protective rage in his eyes. "How we raise our kids is our business," he growled. "But you lay a hand on my daughter again." The situation teetered on the edge of chaos until bystanders rushed to smooth things over, dismissing a child's truth as mere imagination. But the damage was done. The first crack in their perfect family picture had appeared. Standing on that dock, I watched my parents wrap their arms around John protectively, their faces twisted with indignation. "Look at him," they cooed. "How could anyone think our sweet boy capable of such evil?" John played his part perfectly, trembling lips, glistening eyes, a performance I'd seen countless times before. It reminded me of that New Year's Eve, when all the holiday gifts vanished. Dad's fury filled the house as he demanded answers. 2 perfect tears rolled down John's cheeks, and suddenly, all fingers pointed at me. No questions asked, no defense allowed. They locked me in the dark study, my stomach growling as their laughter and celebration leaked through the walls. The spring festival, Gala's cheerful sounds only amplified my isolation. But on the dock, that brave little girl wasn't backing down. "I'm telling the truth," she declared, her voice stronger now. "Dino struggled when he was pushed. Check John's arms. There should be scratch marks." My sister, ever the defender of her precious John, stepped forward with a smirk. "Fine. Let's prove how ridiculous this is. Then you'll apologize to my innocent brother." The confidence in her voice shattered when she rolled up John's sleeve. Long red scratches marked his pale skin, my final desperate attempt to stay alive. The crowd fell silent. John's mask slipped for a moment as panic flashed across his face. No, he stammered, yanking his sleeve down. "I did this to myself. Sister, don't listen to her." My sister's world visibly cracked, but she quickly plastered over the truth. "It must be a coincidence," she said, her voice hollow. "My sweet brother wouldn't hurt a fly." But even she couldn't convince herself anymore. The onlookers had seen enough. "Stop with the excuses," they shouted. "You have another brother missing. Does his life mean nothing to you?" Right on cue, John clutched his chest and swooned, his signature move when cornered. "We need to leave," my parents fretted, already forgetting about their missing son. John's health is delicate. Even as a ghost, I felt a chill. It was his tried and true escape route, one that never failed to work. I realized then that even with witnesses to my murder, they would choose their perfect illusion over the ugly truth. In their story, John would always be the fragile angel, and I would remain the troublemaker who disappeared one stormy day. Some wounds run too deep for even death to heal. From the depths of the sea, I watched my family flee from the truth. Their car sped away, Dad's knuckles white on the steering wheel, Mom's eyes fixed forward, too afraid to glance at their precious John in the rear-view mirror. It was almost funny. Their perfect son was a killer, and they couldn't bear to face it. All those promises of forever love shattered like glass on concrete. Even in death, justice seemed to slip through my ghostly fingers. As rage and despair consumed me, something strange happened. A force, ancient and powerful, pulled at my soul. The pain was unlike anything I'd ever felt. Worse than drowning, worse than being forgotten. When consciousness returned, I found myself back in my body on the shore, but I wasn't alone. A voice echoed in my mind, clinical and clear. Host meets requirements for binding with the regret collection system. I laughed bitterly at that. Requirements? Regret? You've got the wrong soul. My family doesn't know the meaning of regret when it comes to me. Their hearts only beat for John. But the system had other plans. You're missing crucial memories, it replied, and suddenly my mind exploded with images of another tragedy. A lake, peaceful until chaos struck. A sightseeing boat capsized, throwing a family of 4 into the cold water. The father, a strong swimmer, was crippled by a leg cramp. The mother and daughter thrashed helplessly, unable to swim. Death's shadow loomed over them all. But then came their youngest son, a tiny hero with the heart of a lion. He moved through the water like he was born to it, his small body channeling strength that seemed impossible for his size. Without hesitation, he fought the current, pushing both adults to safety. Most would have stopped there, exhausted and satisfied, but not him. He dove back in for his sister, even as she panicked and fought against him in her terror. Her desperate struggles left bruises on his body, but he didn't let go. He was running on empty, his muscles screaming for rest, but something deeper than physical strength kept him going. Love, perhaps, or raw determination. With one final push, he sent his sister to safety. But heroes don't always get happy endings. As exhaustion finally claimed him, a sudden current swept through the lake. The boy who had saved his entire family was carried away by the merciless water, vanishing beneath the surface as his rescued family screamed helplessly from the shore. The memory shimmered like sunlight on water, a family shattered on a lakeshore, their screams echoing across the waves. "Baby, please come back to Mommy and Daddy." Their grief carved deep hollows in their lives. Their once joyful daughter stopped playing, becoming a silent ghost in their living room, her nighttime cries for her brother the only sound she made. But fate had other plans. The current had swept me into a channel where a fisherman found me, bloodied and memoryless. My rescuer, seeing my damaged face, arranged for reconstructive surgery before sending me to an orphanage. There, I became Joshua, a new name for a boy who'd forgotten his old one. The irony twisted like a knife in my chest. All those years at home, watching them shower John with love, I'd imagined their real son must have been the happiest child alive. How could I have known I was imagining my own lost happiness? I was their baby, their precious son, standing right beside them all along, and neither of us knew it. Destiny has a cruel sense of humor. Through the system's window, I watched my family's car speed away from the truth. Dad's unusual silence filled the vehicle until my sister's voice cut through it. "That faulty life jacket," she said, desperation clear in her voice. "I gave it to Dino. We should check the whole batch. If his jacket was fine, that girl was lying. We need to clear John's name." Mom nodded eagerly, while John trembled with false innocence, eyes squeezed shut. Looking at his quivering eyelashes, I felt cold determination settle in my soul. The guilty would pay, all of them. Just as I stood to leave the beach, dizziness swept over me like a wave. As consciousness slipped away, The system's words echoed in my mind. You'll have a family. The darkness carried me into memories I didn't know I had. I saw my third birthday, bright with joy and love. Mom held up a jade pendant, her eyes sparkling. Look, she said softly. It's shaped just like the birthmark on your back, like a butterfly wing, our little angel with hidden wings. My sister, beaming with pride, fastened its twin around her own neck. It was my idea, she declared. Now we'll always be connected. The memory flickered. A complete butterfly formed by 2 jade pendants, my sister's childhood promise ringing in my ears. Nothing can separate us. Years later, I found one half of that butterfly in her room, innocent curiosity drawing me to it. Her sudden appearance shattered the moment, her voice sharp as ice. Who gave you permission to touch my things? She clutched the pendant to her chest like I'd tried to steal her heart, not just a piece of jewelry. 2 weeks later, everything was in motion. I'd thanked my savior in person and anonymously sent my aunt the documentation of my rescue and orphanage placement. My parents had tasked her with searching for me, their biological son, over the years. But hope had faded to resignation. They'd accepted their first son was probably dead, never suspecting he lived under their roof. The day my aunt received the documents, my family sat around their dinner table, laden with soybean dishes, glazed beans, braised beef and soy sauce, soybean pig's foot soup, all because John loved soybeans. For years, they'd catered to his tastes while ignoring my severe soybean allergy. I'd survived on plain vegetables, growing weaker until I collapsed during school checkups. Yet they never changed the menu. Dino hasn't been home for half a month, Mom suddenly remarked, annoyance in her voice. When did he become so bold? The irony tasted. This time, Dad's hand cracked across John's face. Still playing victim? He roared. We've been raising a wolf, and it cost us our real son. The mask was off. They'd always known John's acts were fake. They'd just chosen to believe the lie. My sister stood in her own reality, muttering like a broken record. This can't be happening. Not like this. No. Even as Mom was rushed to the hospital, she couldn't let go of her delusion. Standing guard over John, she pleaded, Dad, the baby's gone. John is all we have. He's still my brother. Dad's kick sent her sprawling. In her hospital bed, Mom became a fury, hurling anything within reach, her screams of grief echoing through the corridors. Their perfect family picture had shattered, leaving only jagged edges that cut everyone who tried to hold the pieces together. John, once so confident, now trembled in my sister's embrace like a frightened child. The change in my parents was dramatic. Their previous doting affection for him evaporated like morning dew. They erased his presence from our home piece by piece. His chair at dinner disappeared without explanation, leaving him to watch us eat while fighting back tears. They stripped his room bare, replacing everything with my old belongings as if he'd never existed. In the living room, the shattering of their family portrait echoed the breaking of their relationship. In its place hung my childhood drawing, messy lines and bright colors that somehow meant more to them now. My sister, refusing to abandon John, made the heart-wrenching decision to leave school. She threw herself into whatever work she could find, desperately trying to support him. I watched her exhaust herself day after day, perhaps because accepting John's true nature would hurt more than physical fatigue. The irony was bitter. Despite my sister's sacrifices, John continued spending her hard-earned money carelessly. I couldn't bear to reveal myself yet. The wounds were still too fresh. Instead, I channeled my anger into studying with an intensity that surprised even me. From dawn to nearly midnight, I immersed myself in books and problems, determined to forge a different path. One New Year's Eve, while I was wrestling with complex mathematics under my desk lamp, a sudden flash of light caught my attention. There was Sunny, Maria's brilliant daughter, holding sparklers and wearing that warm smile I'd come to treasure. "Give me an hour of fun," she bargained, "and I'll help you crack that holiday math problem." My eyes sparkled at the deal. How could I resist? Sunny wasn't just Maria's daughter or a stellar graduate student at an elite university. She became my mentor and friend. Her patient guidance and innovative teaching methods opened new ways of thinking for me. Thanks partly to her help, I secured a spot at one of the nation's top 5 universities the following year. Maria and Sunny celebrated by taking me abroad, my first real vacation as an adult. For once, I felt the simple joy of just being happy. At university, I dove into design studies in the capital city. The creative energy of the campus fueled my passion. Achievement followed achievement. National scholarships, successful competition entries in film and advertising design, and a growing portfolio of freelance work that finally gave me financial freedom. By the summer after my second year, as Sunny prepared for her doctoral studies, I received another national award. That's when Maria, who had given me a home when I had nothing, made it official through adoption. She had been my true mother in every way that mattered, making official what we'd known in our hearts for years. The celebration party sparkled with local celebrities and important figures. I knew my biological parents would come. They'd grown even more successful in business lately. I'd carefully crafted their invitations, deliberately leaving off my name. That evening, I watched from above as the guests filled the hall, my heart pounding when I spotted them enter with my sister and John. My mother approached Maria with a wrapped gift, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "You're truly blessed," she said, "having both Sunny and your son doing so well." Maria acknowledged this with a graceful nod. Near them, John surveyed the luxurious surroundings, muttering under his breath, "Whoever gets to be Maria's son hit the jackpot. Not like me, stuck with these foster parents." My sister yanked his arm, hissing at him to behave. My father's voice carried a trace of bitterness. Maria really does have it all. I watched my mother's face fall at his words, pain flickering in her eyes as thoughts of their dead son surfaced. The moment of truth arrived 15 minutes later when Maria led me onto the stage, her hand warm and reassuring in mine. The guests' compliments flowed freely. What a fine young man, just like his mother. A top art school student, as brilliant as his sister. But I barely heard them. My focus was fixed on my biological family's faces as recognition dawned. My mother swayed, collapsing against my father. John and my sister stared as if seeing a ghost, their faces draining of color. "My baby!" My mother's cry cut through the pleasant chatter like a knife. "You're alive. You've come back to me." Her voice cracked with desperate hope. My father remained silent, but his eyes spoke volumes of regret and longing. When my mother broke free and rushed toward the stage, I felt a flash of satisfaction mixed with pain. Security stepped in at my frown, but she kept calling out, "You must hate us for how we treated you. I'd give my life to make it right. Please don't reject your mother." Her pleas echoed through the suddenly silent room. Maria's voice turned to steel as she warned, "Continue disrupting my son's celebration, and you'll be escorted out." My sister dragged our sobbing mother back, murmuring, "Mom, stop. Our baby is gone. Accept it." I couldn't help but laugh darkly at her words. "Funny how you talk about accepting reality," I said, "when you can't even look me in the eye." John's voice cut through the tension, dripping with bitter envy. How could Dino transform into someone so refined? This young master's from an elite school. Impossible for Dino. His words betrayed his own failures. Years of losing our parents' favor had left him adrift, settling for a junior college while watching his dreams crumble. Despite our parents' thriving business, they'd closed their wallets to both him and my sister. My sister's sacrifices haunted me. She'd given up her education, working herself to exhaustion at countless jobs, yet John could barely afford basic luxuries with her hard-earned money. Now here I stood, the same Dino they'd once scorned, commanding attention as Maria's accomplished son. Their denial was almost predictable. They dragged our mother back, desperately clinging to their version of reality. "People can look alike," my sister insisted, her voice wavering. "You can't just claim it's him without proof." But I could see the doubt creeping into her eyes. The party shifted focus to my design exhibition, a showcase of my award-winning work from the past year, carefully curated by Maria. As I presented each piece, the genuine admiration in the audience's eyes filled me with quiet pride. But I saved the most important reveal for last. With theatrical precision, I pulled away the white cloth covering my final piece. There, under perfectly positioned spotlights, lay two exquisite jade pendants. The pure white stones seemed to glow, carved into delicate butterfly shapes that appeared ready to take wing at any moment. "This," I announced, my voice steady, "is my masterpiece. Twin butterfly jade pendants, designed so their wearers can never truly be parted." I watched my sister's reaction below. Her hand instinctively went to her throat, touching the pendant she still wore. Tears welled in her eyes as she remembered her own words from years ago. "As long as we wear these butterfly pendants, nothing can separate us." Mother's cry pierced the air again as she clutched at my sister's clothes. "Listen to him! Who else could know about the butterfly pendants?" My sister stood frozen, her fingers wrapped around her own pendant, her jaw tight with emotion. When she finally looked up at me, I saw a storm of recognition, pain, and longing in her eyes, the same complex gaze she'd given me in our childhood moments of deepest connection. Lifting one of my newly crafted pendants, I let it catch the light. These are crafted from the finest Hutian jade, mutton fat grade, literally priceless. I paused, my heart racing slightly. "And today, I'll personally place one around my sister's neck. From this day forward, nothing will separate us." I watched my sister's eyes widen with shock below the stage. Then, with perfect timing, Sunny appeared beside me, her movements graceful as she bowed. I placed the pendant around her neck with deliberate care, and she did the same for me. Together, the two halves formed a flawless butterfly, a masterpiece of jade and craftsmanship. My sister's face transformed as she watched, first like a child watching their favorite toy being given to another, then twisting into something darker than tears. Without a word, she turned and walked away. Even John's calls couldn't make her look back. He shot me a venomous glare before chasing after her. Later, my parents came begging to see me, their expensive clothes contrasting sharply with their humbled demeanor. Maria faced them with steel in her voice. "For over a decade, you had Dino, but never They crumpled at our doorstep. My mother, voice raw from crying, kept whispering to my father, 'This is our punishment for not cherishing Dino. We let him slip away, and now his heart is hardened against us. It's all our fault.' She struck her own face repeatedly until my father pulled her close, grief etched in every line of his face. From upstairs, I closed the window on their laments. Inside, Sunny studied my newest designs with thoughtful interest, while Maria sat nearby, our ragdoll cat winding between her legs. This was my real family now. I was moving forward. The holiday passed quietly until, just before school resumed, my sister texted asking to meet for a proper goodbye. I arrived at West Ping Bridge as agreed, waiting as the sun began to set. But the figure that emerged from the shadows wasn't my sister. It was John, his face twisted with hatred. "I pushed you into the ocean once," he snarled. "So why won't you stay gone? You're like a cockroach that won't die. Without you, I'd have everything. The air position, the mansion, even Sunny. If I could push you once, I can do it again." He lunged at me in blind rage, but I'd learned from the past. Just as he reached me, my sister burst from the waiting car, throwing herself between us and restraining his wild attack. My sister's face darkened with devastating realization. John, you were the one who pushed Dino into the sea? After all these years we cared for you, how could you be so cruel? I'd suspected the text wasn't from her and had warned her before coming. Now John stood exposed, but his panic quickly transformed into a calculated performance. "Sis, you're hurting me," he whimpered, forcing tears. "I feel faint. Please, just let me explain." Years of devotion made my sister vulnerable to his act. As her grip loosened slightly, John's hand flashed to his bag, drawing out a knife. The sound of blade meeting flesh echoed in the air. My sister had thrown herself in front of me. As she collapsed, I fought to stay composed while calling emergency services. John's facade crumbled completely. "No, sis, I didn't mean to. It wasn't me." He fled, leaving the bloody knife behind. My sister pressed her wound, reaching for me with her other hand. I leaned close to catch her fading words. "This is what my softness cost us," she whispered hoarsely. "I was wrong. So wrong. Can you forgive me, baby brother?" Her eyes closed as her hand went limp. I desperately tried to stop the bleeding while waiting for help. But we reached the hospital too late. She had lost too much blood. My sister was gone. The police caught John quickly. His sentence was life imprisonment for 2 attempted murders. He fought and screamed as they took him away, his true nature finally exposed to everyone. When our parents arrived, I barely recognized them. Their hair had turned ashen, faces deeply lined with grief. They stood by my sister's body, tears streaming down their weathered cheeks, their once proud postures now bent with sorrow. Maria and Sonny rushed to support me, but I was beyond reaching. As we left the hospital, I heard my parents calling out, "Baby!" I didn't turn back. Maria and Sonny held my hands, guiding me forward. That name no longer belonged to me. After my sister's cremation, our parents transferred everything to Maria: the company, the estate, all their assets. They kept nothing, returning to our hometown to start a small farm. They chose to live simply off the land, seeking peace in their remaining years away from the world that had brought them such pain. The system, having collected enough remorse points, finally released its hold on my body. The past was truly finished. Ahead lay a clear path, full of promise.